Psyched up for the latest Gegege no Kitaro, I see.
Well, of course I am. It's Halloween, and I'm excited to see what this episode does with it. I mean, this isn't the first time that Gegege no Kitaro's delved into Western monsters, so to speak, and the episode that they did over Obon 2 months back was one of my favorites.
Well, let's just see how it goes.
Halloween 爆発しろ！そんなにひどいもんなのか？最近は特に激しいらしいの。最低のイベントよ。
いやいや、日本のハロウィンっていうのは一言で言えば仮装した連中がバカ騒ぎする祭りみたいなもんなんです。
The heck was that? That was literally just 20 minutes of everyone smack talking Halloween. I mean, usually Gegege no Kitaro's social commentary at least has somewhat of a counterbalance, but that was completely one-sided. Alright, hang on a second, I'm gonna have a look at this really quick. Oh. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goomba here, and welcome back to Culture Shock. We break down your favorite games and anime and discover the culture that inspired them.
And a happy Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, and everything in between to one and all. Despite the fact that it'll all probably be over and done with before this video comes out.
Well, all things considered, this episode did only come out a day before we got this thing scripted, but despite how timely this video may be or not be, what we're going to be talking about today is actually something that's going to be affecting Japan for years to come.
So for those of you that don't know, I've made a little ongoing niche of mine to review one of Japan's most long-running anime, Gegege no Kitaro, a series dating all the way back to the 60s, with new episodes coming out even to this day. Featuring traditional yokai monsters of Japan, of course, but curiously also making several social commentary statements in its episodes. Now, I've made about 5 or 6 videos already pointing out not only the culture of the yokai featured in every episode, but also breaking down the sociological points of the commentary that each episode makes, giving an inside look into the social issues of Japan. But today's episode, though, well, this is the first time I've ever felt this conflicted. Episode 79, Komori Neko's Halloween Pandemonium, isn't exactly a good episode narratively speaking. In fact, with the exception of the plot point that the Western monsters are trying to resurrect an old big baddie that fought with Kitaro and crew a dozen entries back, the episode is pretty inconsequential. Instead, the takeaway of the episode is the social commentary statement on how Japan celebrates and views Halloween, which is basically summed up as...
Halloween 爆発しろ！
But what the heck is so bad about Halloween in Japan? Speaking as someone who spent a few Halloweens in Japan myself, I found this blunt force trauma of a message to be bewildering. For example, when I was studying abroad in Yokohama with a few other students, the Halloween party we had was pretty great. Nothing too rambunctious, but everyone had a good time. As for my time working in Japan in the JET program, I got to teach my kids some of the origins of the holiday as well as experience a few Halloween parties of my own. It was a really good time and honestly, a great way to promote cross-cultural relationships. Despite a particular thing that happened at a particular party, in general, these Halloween parties were a good way for Japanese and foreigners to come together, dress up, hang out, and have fun. But then, just as I left the JET program in 2012, a strange event happened. 1,700 people dressed in costumes took to the Shibuya Scramble Crossing and began the first ever unofficial Halloween street party. And it's here where Halloween started to become a massive pain in Tokyo's side, because what started off as 1,700 people has quickly turned into 70,000 people over the course of 7 years.
Well, hang on. If Halloween was getting imported to Japan like you said, why didn't some of the traditions like trick-or-treating come too? I mean, I get that modern times are having people isolate themselves more and more, but community is still an important aspect of life in Japan, right?
Well, that could be the case if it wasn't for something even more important within society, the concept of meiwaku o kakeru, or being an inconvenience. Life advice for anyone who wants to live in Japan, the very last thing you should ever do is be an unnecessary burden to someone. So when you consider how absolutely dense Japan is with people, homes, and families, you could probably understand how much of a pain it would be for someone to have enough candy to pass out to each kid roaming the neighborhood. Not to mention people being disturbed every 5 freaking minutes to open the door. That isn't to say that trick-or-treating doesn't happen at all in Japan, because it does happen in some places, but only really within a controlled environment rather than the general public. Besides all of that, Japan already has its own spooky season 2 months back, Obon, a traditional festival that not only welcomes back the spirits of deceased family members, but is also the time of year when the telling of the Hyaku Monogatari, or 100 ghost stories, became prevalent. For many, that's enough spookums, and the country really doesn't need any more. So with the fact that North American Halloween traditions didn't exactly translate well into Japan's society, the next best thing, I suppose, was to just throw a big block party. A block party that, as I mentioned earlier, was so successful that it transformed an unofficial event featuring 1,700 people into 70,000 people. Into our episode of Gegege no Kitaro. It seems Kitaro's yokai crew isn't exactly down with Japan's Shibuya Halloween festivities, generalizing the notion that the Shibuya Halloween block party is nothing more than people getting drunk and women getting loose. Even the ever-understanding Daddy Eyeball Meidama Oyaji's throwing down. But it's the conniving Nezumi Otoko that puts it the bluntest when he says,
Wow,
I thought that was a little extreme. But this is what I had to consider. Imagine, if you will, a convention of over 70,000 people. That's twice the size of Anime Matsuri and 2/3 the size of Anime Expo. All in cosplay, all drinking heavily, and all within arguably the world's busiest intersection. Yeah, it gives you a moment of pause, right? But that's the current image of Halloween in Japan.
Actually, correction. This is the current image of Halloween in Japan right now. During the 2018 Shibuya Halloween block party, 14 people were arrested over the course of the next few months, with charges ranging from groping women to theft to straight up flipping a truck and cheering about it. Many of the locals compared the street event to that of a near mob, and the event, it seems, has gotten so out of hand that Ken Hasebe, mayor of the Shibuya ward, stated, quote, "I want to devise new measures, and there are several possibilities, such as using Yoyogi Park starting next year or making Halloween a paid event. Like you said, this is a society of people that puts community first and would do anything that they could to not be a bother to other people." Well, this is one heck of a bother, my friend, so can you really blame Gegege no Kitaro for being so against it?
Well, I wouldn't if that was the end of the story, but it isn't. See, what I thought was kind of irritating about this episode is that literally at the crack of frickin' dawn, it's like everyone just woke up from some kind of stupor and departed from Shibuya Crossing en masse, going right back to their regular lives. This feels super unfair because in reality, that's not the end of it. Because the very next morning, there are people out there, many of them still in costume by the way, who are picking up the trash. One example from what I found in my research was a 27-year-old woman named Manami Suzuki, who was picking up trash with bags she brought from home, stating, "I did it because I want to have fun at Halloween next year and beyond." They're not rude, they're not drunks, and they're not jerks. They're just people that want to keep having this festival again next year because they had such a good time. And they're doing their part to be responsible. Yes, I get it. Tens of thousands of drunk people in one place, 13 arrests and property damage are all big issues. And the episode very much shows that off with the villain of the week, Komori Neko, drinking heavily, farting on people, and somehow creating a throne of toppled police vehicles. An obvious visual take on both the flipped truck from last year and the disdain for order that Halloween seems to bring. But to simply condemn the event or Halloween in general is short-sighted and foolish, and to neglect the effort of the people who work to make sure this event continues is extremely unfair. Plus, precautions are being made starting this year. Shibuya is banning the consumption of alcohol publicly, as well as the use of extreme audio equipment from October 25th to November 1st, and there's also that mention from the mayor about trying to make this event official and regulated.
Yeah, but why do you care? You don't even live in Japan.
Because for all of the drunken stupidity that Halloween causes in Japan, it does one thing that is extremely hard to do in that country: bring foreigners and locals together. I get the fact that Halloween is a commercialized holiday in Japan, imported from North America with few traditions coming over as well. But as an imported holiday, it's given people so many opportunities to be exposed to folks from around the world. The Shibuya Crossing block party isn't just 70,000 Japanese. There are Americans, Canadians, Europeans, South Africans, South Americans, Middle Easterners, people from all over the world living in Japan, coming out and having a good time with local folks who may not have a lot of interaction with foreigners. Are there too many people who get wasted and cause problems? Absolutely. But we're looking at a sociological phenomena that transcends far more than just one country importing the commercialized version of another's holiday. This is an opportunity for a massive international event to take place, I'll bet one involving drinking and partying, but as anyone who's lived there will tell you, sometimes partying in Japan is the only way people let themselves come out and be themselves. It's kind of like my experiences with Honensai, which I've also covered in a video. It's one of the only times I've ever seen foreigners and Japanese have a good time together in a large setting, my Halloweens in Japan being the other. So for as much as I love Gegege no Kitaro and for as much of a great vehicle it is to talk about both yokai and Japanese social issues, I would ask it and people with its mentality to think carefully about this unified condemnation of Halloween. To be so critical could mean the loss of a great way to foster grassroots diplomacy. I don't know, what do you guys think? Is Halloween hatred in Japan justified, or do you think we really could be onto a new way for Japan and the Western world to come together? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. If you guys are curious about Gegege no Kitaro yourselves, you can check it out over on VRV. I got a link in the description if you want to have a gander. Otherwise, if I don't see you guys over on my Twitch channel, hopefully I'll see you guys right back here for more Culture Shock, Yokai Hunters, and Witch Ninja. I still do have a Demon Slayers and Digimon video to do after all. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Kumba, signing out.